After flying into the air until he was over 1,000 feet away from the dark clouds in the sky, the shopkeeper came to an abrupt halt before expelling a mouthful of blood essence with a solemn look on his face. No need to wait for the next episode. The full audio novel is already available on my website. Check it out below. He then pointed his 10 fingers at the blood essence in rapid succession, upon which they transformed into several large blood runes that hurtled toward the 5-colored lightning in the sky. The runes then disappeared into the 5-colored lightning in a flash. The arc of lightning immediately emitted a resounding boom as the dark clouds around it were dispelled. Thus, the 5-colored lightning's intimidating true form was revealed in its full glory. The shopkeeper looked up at the fearsome arc of lightning, and he couldn't help but gulp nervously. Even though his mouth was completely dry, he gritted his teeth and expelled a few more mouthfuls of blood essence, all of which also disappeared into the 5-colored lightning as crimson runes. Having expended so much blood essence in one go, the shopkeeper's face was now truly as pale as a sheet of paper. However, his final roll of the dice appeared to be paying off. Following the injection of the blood runes, the 5-colored lightning in the sky finally settled down. Not only had the thunderclaps emanating from it become a lot quieter, the scintillating light radiating from it had also softened significantly. Crimson lines appeared all over the arc of lightning, creating quite a peculiar sight to behold. The shopkeeper was ecstatic upon seeing this and chanted something before abruptly flapping his wings upward. Countless crimson threads shot forth from his wings, puncturing the arc of 5-colored lightning in a flash and fusing as one with the crimson lines on its surface, thereby ensnaring the arc of lightning within. The shopkeeper made a hand seal, and piercing white light radiated from his body as one incantation seal after another was cast into the air above. The 5-colored lightning rumbled within the crimson threads for a while before shrinking and curling together to form a massive ball of lightning with a diameter of around 10 feet. The surface of the ball was riddled with crimson lines, and the shopkeeper was overjoyed to see this. He swept a hand toward the fearsome ball of lightning, and it descended in an obedient manner. Hanley and the others were all flabbergasted by the scenes unfolding before their eyes. However, the shopkeeper didn't give them a chance to ask any questions. His body swayed and he abruptly disappeared on the spot. In the next instant, spatial fluctuations erupted as the shopkeeper appeared beside the lightning beast. He quickly raised both hands into the air, and 2 thick pillars of light immediately shot forth, disappearing into a massive ball of lightning, which was currently only several hundred feet away from the ground. As a result, the ball of lightning paused in mid-air. At such close quarters, Han Li's trio could sense the terrifying power imbued within the ball of 5-colored lightning, and their expressions changed drastically. Thankfully, the ball of lightning had been stabilized in mid-air by the shopkeeper. Otherwise, all 3 of them would have immediately fled the scene. They certainly weren't going to stand still and allow themselves to be killed. The shopkeeper had no spare capacity to pay any heed to what Han Li and the others were thinking. As soon as he stabilized the ball of 5-colored lightning, he let loose a loud cry, and a small slit suddenly opened up on the crimson line at the bottom of the lightning ball. Following a dull thunderclap, a thin bolt of 5-colored lightning shot forth, heading directly toward the lightning beast down below. In the instant that the ball of 5-colored lightning appeared, the lightning beast seemed to have sensed that it was in severe peril. It roared and thrashed with all its might, managing to struggle free from some of the black chains around its body and rising to its feet. However, before it had a chance to do anything else, the 5-colored arc of lightning struck the top of its head with unerring accuracy. The lightning beast was floored before it could utter even a single sound. The shopkeeper was ecstatic to see this one bolt of 5-colored lightning fell after another at his behest. At the same time, he made a hand seal, and the green wooden badge above the lightning beast blasted forth another plume of green threads. On this occasion, with the combined powers of Han Li's trio, along with the arcs of 5-colored lightning, the miniature lightning beast projection was drawn out of the beast's body again in a fit of shock and fury. The projection struggled with all its might, But its lightning powers had mostly been sealed by the 5 black daggers, and its physical body was being immobilized by Han Li's trio and the 5-colored lightning. So it was powerless to resist, as it was forcibly drawn toward the wooden badge inch by inch. Green light flashed from the wooden badge, and following a final roar of fury and despair, the lightning beast projection was drawn into the badge. The shopkeeper hurriedly cast one incantation seal after another onto the wooden badge in quick succession, and it was drawn into his grasp as an elated look appeared on his face. "Haha, I've finally done it." The shopkeeper chortled with glee. Han Li's eyes flashed, and the golden arcs of lightning streaming from his hands disappeared. The young man also withdrew his lightning before looking at the motionless body of the lightning beast on the ground, then turning to the green badge in the shopkeeper's hand with furrowed brows. "What's the meaning of this, brother you? Weren't you going to tame this beast?" That was also what Han Li and the armor-clad man wanted to ask. Ha ha. After extracting the soul of the beast, taming it would be a piece of cake, so 3 of you can rest now. The shopkeeper chuckled as he carefully stowed the green badge away into a jade box with a delighted expression on his face. Han Li and the others glanced at one another, and all of them fell silent as wary expressions appeared on their faces. Something was most definitely amiss here. "Rest assured, seeing as you 3 assisted me greatly in this endeavor, I'll be delivering the rewards I promised you now," the shopkeeper said with a smile before sweeping a sleeve through the air. 3 streaks of white light shot forth toward Han Li's trio, and they were none other than the 3 wooden boxes from earlier. The young man and the armor-clad man were still a little perplexed, but they were overjoyed to see their promised rewards being delivered. As such, they immediately cast aside their concerns and reached out for their respective wooden box. However, piercing blue light suddenly flashed from Han Li's eyes upon seeing this. Immediately thereafter, a set of golden and silver robes appeared over his body before enshrouding the oncoming wooden box within. Meanwhile, Han Li himself hurtled back in retreat. The young man's expression changed slightly upon seeing Han Li's actions, and he immediately realized that something was wrong. However, it was already too late. White light flashed, and the wooden box in his hand suddenly crumbled like a sandcastle, revealing a translucent thumb-sized bead. "Lightning-drawing bead," the young man exclaimed in alarm before attempting to fling it away. However, a thunderclap erupted before he could do so, and a ball of piercing white light appeared amid a loud explosion. There was still a small portion of the 5-colored ball of lightning hovering in mid-air, and as soon as the white light appeared, it split up into 3 arcs of lightning that crashed down from above. The lightning was far too fast to evade, and the young man as well as the armor-clad man were instantly struck by the 5-colored lightning and white light. The 2 powers combined as one, and when the light receded, the 2 were revealed with smoke billowing from their bodies, and it was unknown whether they were dead or alive. As for Han Li, his lightning robes had enshrouded the lightning-drawing bead before the bead exploded, following which the white light was absorbed into the robe, then flung away into the distance. As such, the bolt of 5-colored lightning was diverted away and struck the ground around 10 feet away from its original target. The entire ground tremored, and a crater with a radius of several tens of feet was left on the ground in the wake of the lightning strike. Han Li had retreated right to the edge of the crater, and he arrested his momentum before looking up at the shopkeeper in an expressionless manner. The man's smile faded as a hint of surprise appeared on his face. However, his surprised expression was then immediately replaced by a deriding sneer. Han Li's eyes flashed, and he suddenly flapped his thunderstorm wings before disappearing into space as an arc of azure and white lightning. Almost at the exact same moment, a pair of green claws swiped past the spot where Han Li had just been standing, unleashing crimson arcs of lightning that flashed through the air. The physical body of the lightning beast that had been bound by the black chains had sprung into action and attempted to launch a sneak attack against Han Li from behind. The only difference was that the lightning beast now had a pair of gleaming black eyes that were filled with intelligence. A hint of surprise reappeared on the shopkeeper's face upon witnessing the failure of the lightning beast's sneak attack. However, his body then swayed as he made a soundless retreat. Right at this moment, a thunderclap rang out above his head as Han Li emerged from within a burst of azure and white lightning. As soon as he appeared, he swept a sleeve toward the nearby copper pillars. Several streaks of piercing golden light shot forth, slicing a few pillars into several segments and destroying the entire restriction. The shopkeeper's retreating figure instantly faltered in mid-air as he looked on with a dark expression. Han Li crossed his arms and also hovered in mid-air in silence. At this moment, the lightning beast appeared expressionless behind Han Li with four-colored lightning crackling around its body, sandwiching Han Li between itself, the shopkeeper. I don't care what your intentions are. I don't care whether you actually wanted to tame this beast or whether you were only interested in its soul. As long as you give me what I want, I can pretend that I saw nothing here, Han Li said in a calm voice. You're just a mere flying spirit general. Do you think you have the right to negotiate terms with me? The shopkeeper asked in a sinister voice. If you were at full health, then perhaps I wouldn't be able to do anything. However, after expelling so many mouthfuls of blood essence in succession earlier, you'd be lucky to have retained even a small half of your cultivation base. Do you really think a spirit beast that's yet to reach full maturity can keep me here? Han Li said in a nonchalant voice as he suddenly swept a hand over his wrist. A streak of black light immediately shot forth, spiraling through the air before transforming into a small monkey. The monkey then pounded its chest, and its body swelled drastically to several hundred feet tall in the blink of an eye. At the same time, it had taken on the form of a sinister ghost and was glowering at the lightning beast with a ferocious light in its eyes. Brilliant golden light simultaneously radiated from Han Li's body as 72 small golden swords hurtled through the air, revolving around his body. His golden provenance true devil projection had also appeared behind him, thus conjuring up 3 heads and 6 arms. He then flipped both hands over at the same time, and one hand was inky black, with a miniature black mountain hovering over its palm, while the other was as pristine white as jade, with 5 miniature skulls revolving over its palm. After that, Han Li gently flapped his wings and azure light revolved around his body, manifesting the projections of a massive azure bird and a 5-colored heavenly phoenix. In conjunction with the provenance true devil projection, all 3 projections had appeared at once, emanating a collective burst of astonishing spiritual pressure. The cold smirk on the shopkeeper's face vastly changed. With his cultivation, he was able to sense the immense power of the projections behind him as well as the incisiveness of the glowing treasures. The weeping soul beast's sinister ghost form was a clear threat as well from its huge size and appearance. After a moment of silence, the shopkeeper harshly shouted, "Who are you? I know a bit of the outstanding disciples of the Tian Peng race, but none are as outstanding as you." Han Li stared at the shopkeeper and indifferently said, "Who I am isn't important. What is important is how you feel about my proposal. Your cultivation has dropped from late Great Spirit General stage to early stage. Even if you are keeping any contingency plans, I am half certain I will defeat you. However, I am not interested in a life or death battle. So long as you give me what I want, I will immediately go away." When the shopkeeper heard this, he sized Han Li up. Then, after a moment of hesitation, he wryly chuckled. The shopkeeper pursed his lips and probingly said, "Good, very good. The strength you revealed does give you the qualifications to say that. But it is a pity. Even if I agree, I have no azure sifting fruits to give you. The treasures you saw in the box was an illusion and was produced the secret technique that is unique to our Pentaluster race. You should have had some doubts about it. Ha ha, an illusion technique. I cultivate a technique that can see through illusions. However, the thing I want is in that box. No matter how formidable your illusion techniques are, if you didn't have that item, you wouldn't be able to create such believable illusions," Han Li said with a deep tone. "You want that item?" the shopkeeper said with a surprised face. "That's right. It can't be considered too steep a price." Han Li smiled. "If you want it, I'll give it to you." Without taking any time to consider, the shopkeeper promptly flipped his hand to produce a wooden box and tossed it over. Blue light flashed from Han Li's eyes, and he reached out for it. A wave of blue mist flew out and wrapped around the box, suspending it in the air. Han Li swept his spiritual sense past it, and he opened it with a trace of joy on his face. A wave of medicinal scent assailed his nose, and he saw the azure sifting fruit. Han Li silently opened his mouth and spat out a cloud of blood essence, instantly sweeping over the wooden box. A rainbow light flashed from the box, and the emerald green fruit began to shrink like an illusion. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a crimson fruit the size of a thumb. The box didn't contain an azure sifting fruit, but another. When the shopkeeper saw the joy on Han Li's face, he felt some relief and smiled, saying, "Many years ago, in a dangerous depth, I unintentionally acquired an azure sifting fruit. In order to rear the lightning beast, I used it for medicine. Otherwise, I definitely would have given it to you. This is the fruit's pit, but it isn't worth much, and it is very different from the fruit's body. But I won't let you take a loss. I'll give you several top-grade spirit stones as compensation." Afterwards, he shook his sleeve and launched an azure leather pouch through the air. Han Li raised his brow. Rather than rashly catching it, grey light swept out from his back and wrapped the pouch in divine essence-fused light. The grey light suspended the pouch in the air as it harmlessly twirled in place. Han Li instantly swept his spiritual sense into the pouch and faintly raised his lip. "In that case, I'll accept your offer." In a gust of wind, the pouch vanished and Han Li put away the fruit core in the box. The shopkeeper's face faintly changed when he saw Han Li's strange display, but it was soon replaced with a smile. Brother Han's abilities are truly unordinary. What does Brother Han plan on doing next? Han Li leisurely said, "Since I've acquired what I want, I won't involve myself with you any further. But if it is possible, I hope you'll hand over the other two to me. After all, we've come here together. If they disappear, it will be difficult for me to explain to the Tian Peng race. As for what happens next, you'll most likely be unable to stay in the holy city." Not finding Han Li's words odd, the shopkeeper softly chuckled and said, "I can do that. However, their character is rather poor. Since they didn't acquire what they wanted and suffered a loss, I fear they wouldn't be appeased. Wouldn't it be better for everyone if they were gone? Although I'd like that as well, I have matters tying me to the Tian Peng race for some time. I'll also think of a way to appease them." Han Li answered with a casual tone, "Since Brother Han had said this, I'll leave them to you." At nearly the same time, 4-colored lightning flashed around the lightning beast and disappeared from Han Li's back. A short moment later, thunder sounded behind the shopkeeper. As Han Li looked at the lightning beast, a flash of realization appeared from his eyes. It seems Senior didn't plan on taming the beast, but rather use it as an external incarnation. The shopkeeper chuckled and vaguely said Brother Han saw through it. Han Li smirked and threw to say something else when a humming sound filled the air. The black cloud the shopkeeper summoned had been scattered by a gale. The entire sky was shining faintly yellow, and a soft cry sounded from the air. The nearby space had begun to warp. Han Li narrowed his eyes. The skinny man glanced around and ground, "That's the Zhumi Paradise's worldly essence, Qi. It's already reached its limit and it will soon scatter. Let's quickly leave." "Yes, I'll have to trouble Senior Yu to open the way." Han Li promptly agreed. "Hehe, you flatter," the shopkeeper ironically said. He swept his eyes past the rainbow phoenix on Han Li's back. Soon after, he muttered to himself a moment and he grabbed at the air. Rainbow light flickered and a scroll appeared with glowing light. The scroll spread out and a pillar of light rushed out from it. A 3-meter-tall light gate appeared in front of them, revealing a mist of white light behind it. As if it led to paradise. Han Li's expression stirred and his shoulders shook, releasing 2 waves of grey light, sweeping up an unconscious large man and youth on the ground. The weeping soul beast transformed into a human tall black ape and stood behind him. Seeing that Han Li collected the large man and the youth, a fierce look appeared from the shopkeeper's eyes. But he eventually decided to take no action. He simply called out, "Brother Han, let's go." The two blurred and flew through the light gate one after another. Han Li's surroundings lit up for a moment, and he found himself in the shopkeeper's residence. It was normal, as if nothing had happened. On the wall behind them was the Zhumi Paradise painting. Han Li felt his heart relax. With his abilities, he had nothing to truly fear from the shopkeeper. But he was no ordinary Great Spirit general-grade being. With his bizarre secret techniques, Han Li was unwilling to have a true fight to the death with him. A crackle then sounded, and the ancient painting trembled. It silently turned to ash. Han Li's heart jumped and his face stirred. When the shopkeeper saw this, he wore a sad expression. It was clear he was saddened by the treasure's destruction. Having smoothly returned to his residence, he bluntly said, "From your actions, I would think you aren't a very meddlesome person. I'll leave those two to you. As I am injured, I won't be seeing you out." Han Li gave him a quick salute, showing no intention of staying there any longer, and he shook his sleeve, withdrawing the weeping soul beast before walking out in a blur. Behind Han Li were two clouds of grey light pulling along the youth and the black-armored man. From a distance, it looked as if the two were flying closely behind Han Li. When the shopkeeper saw Han Li and company leave, his smile faded. At that moment, two of his subordinates walked in from the outside and respectfully stood to the side. One of them carefully asked Martial Ancestor, "Are you truly leaving those three alone? Will they not cause trouble?" The shopkeeper snorted. "What trouble could they bring? Even if they come back, they won't find anyone here. Let's tidy up our things and use the underground teleportation formation. We're leaving the holy city immediately. We can't stay with the Tian Peng anymore, only the Pentaluster race will do. With the identity I prepared in the Pentaluster race, no one will come find me." "Yes, Ancestor." With the shopkeeper's order, the two Tian Peng beings raised no objections and immediately acknowledged him. The two quickly entered the other rooms. The shopkeeper stood in place and looked at the large door. A dark expression briefly appeared on his face. "Unless it is for something significant, I don't want to take any risks. With my previous temperament, I might have had you stay behind," the shopkeeper muttered. He then took out a medicine bottle from his robes, and he swallowed two dark green medicine pills. Soon after, he swiped his hand past his face, and a blinding white light shined from it. After the light faded, he now had the appearance of a skinny, middle-aged scholar. Both his face and his mannerisms were completely changed, as if he were an entirely different person. He walked to a corner of the main hall in a stride and placed his hand against the wall. An underground passage was revealed. Meanwhile, Han Li brought the youth and the large man to a nearby building. With a quick look around, he found that no one appeared to be there. He promptly released his divine essence-fused light and immediately dropped them on the ground. After a brief look at the two, Han Li helplessly sighed, "You're quite lucky. If I wasn't scared of being implicated with your deaths, I wouldn't have gone through the trouble." As he said this, he flipped his hand and summoned tens of silver needles in his hand. Air tore as the needles sank into their bodies. After an unknown time had passed, the gentle young man woke up with a splitting headache. After he opened his eyes, he immediately jumped up out of alarm and noticed Han Li and the black-armored man, who earlier regained consciousness. According to his last memories, the youth couldn't help but shout with fury. "What happened? I last remember that old traitor Yu didn't give us any treasure and instead used the lightning drawing bead on us." The large man shook his head, still feeling somewhat muddled. He sat up cross-legged and immediately examined himself with his spiritual sense. A short moment later, he let out a long sigh. "How lucky. I've only lost a bit of vitality. Nothing too bad." Han Li lowered his head in silence, and his eyes wandered as if he were pondering. The gentle youth looked at Han Li and the large man and said, "Do you two know what happened afterwards?" The large man wryly laughed, "Not much. When I was hit by that rainbow lightning, my soul was shaken and I lost consciousness." The youth turned to Han Li and said, "Brother Han, I recall that you've discovered that traitor's scheme and didn't fall into the lightning drawing bead." Han Li sighed and said, "As a mere flying spirit general, how could I truly escape? Although I dodged the rainbow lightning, the lightning beast attacked me and was knocked out like you two." "You were attacked by the lightning beast. That's right, the beast should have been possessed by the traitor with the crystal core. He definitely would have been able to control its body for a short amount of time, the black-armored man said with an odd expression. The strange part is, why would the traitor leave us here when he turned hostile? That is strange. Most likely the traitor saw that we succeeded and didn't want to give anything. I found it strange that he would trade such rare items for subjugating a spirit beast. He originally planned on denying us from the start. Fancy that his myriad lightning shop was so famous in the holy city. Han Li nodded. If he only wished to deny us treasure, it isn't necessary to kill us. However, while we were unconscious, he escaped. When the large man heard this, he grew pensive and accepted this idea. A cold glint flashed from the youth's eyes, and he resentfully said, "We cannot allow that traitor to escape. Let's go to his residence even if he managed to get away. We might be able to get some clues." The black-armored man hesitated before agreeing, but Han Li shook his head. "My cultivation is too low. It is fortunate that we still have our lives. I don't want to investigate the matter further, so I'll be bidding you two seniors farewell." The large man and the youth couldn't help but glance at each other in surprise. The young man gritted his teeth and said, "Brother Han, are you really going to use that gun when that traitor played us? Your lightning techniques are quite unordinary, so you should be someone of significant background. Even if the traitor's cultivation is far beyond ours, his vitality must have been greatly damaged when he extracted the soul of the lightning beast. If we joined hands, we have nothing to fear. And if that won't do, we can make a report to the elders. Although he possesses some cultivation, would he dare to resist the clan elders?" The large black-armored man said, "The clan elders. There is no need to alarm them. Let's deal with the matter ourselves." Han Li calmly shook his head. "Forget about it. I have other important matters in the holy city. I may as well take care of both matters while I'm there. Since this matter can't be changed, I won't be paying much attention to it. Seniors, I will bid you farewell." He then saluted the two and soared to the sky with the wings on his back, taking off in an azure streak. The young man looked at Han Li flying away with a sullen expression and turned to the large man. "He can't recognize the kindness of others. So long as we can find that traitor, the two of us will be able to deal with him." Ha, ha. A mere flying spirit general is still something, not much or little. Feeling somewhat worried, the large black-armored man said, "However, since that old traitor Yu dares to turn back on his word, he must have something prepared. Our chances aren't very high. If we don't investigate, how do we know if we can't block him?" The youth shook his head. The large man hummed several times. "That sounds reasonable. Let's go." Soon after, the two flew in the direction of the shopkeeper's residence. At that moment, Han Li was boldly returning to the honored guest lodge and tossed the matter to the back of his mind. Over the next few days, Han Li sat cross-legged in the building and continuously drank medicine, pills to consolidate his late deity transformation stage cultivation. Meanwhile, he spent great efforts to comprehend the Tian Peng's transformation technique. From his efforts, he grasped the transformation technique to the point of perfection. He would be able to use it in a real battle. As time slowly passed by, 2 months quickly passed. One day, as Han Li sat cross-legged on his bed, with azure waves of light roaming around him, his expression suddenly stirred and his eyes opened. At nearly the same time, a bright voice leisurely spoke from the outside. "I am Bai Bi. Grand Elder Feng has given me orders to invite you." Han Li narrowed his eyes for a moment before wearing a normal expression. His body moved with an unnatural swiftness as he stood to his feet. Ever since he cultivated the Tian Peng transformation art, he felt his body become far nimbler, and his body techniques have seen an improvement as well. Han Li pushed open his door and walked out, heading directly to the main hall. When he arrived at the hall, there was a yellow-clothed young man with his hands held behind his back. The youth didn't look particularly handsome, but his eyes were clear. When he saw Han Li arrive, he amiably asked, "Are you Senior Han? Under Grand Elder Feng's orders, I've come to remind you to leave." He spoke with complete and free ease, despite only possessing early deity transformation cultivation. Han Li glanced at the youth and smiled. "Bai Bi, it seems your bearing is unordinary. You should be one of the 2 holy disciples. Bai Bi saluted Han Li with a smile and said, I am ashamed. I have failed the deep favor of the elders as one of the holy disciples. I have come to know a bit about Brother Han's circumstances from a few of the elders. I must thank Brother Han for his assistance, or else an elder close to me may find their lives in danger. You mean to say? Han Li wore an expression of surprise. The youth smiled and said, My uncle Bai Lei and my aunt Bai Ning. Your brother Bai Lei's nephew. Han Li looked at the shining golden wings on the young man's back and wore an odd expression on his face. Sensing Han Li's doubt, Bai Bi explained with a smile, There is no need for Brother Han to feel baffled. It was only after I came of age did I arouse the Kun Peng true bloodline hidden in my body. That is why my wings changed color. So it was like that. Your luck must have been quite good. Han Li chuckled. Soon after, he followed the Tian Peng holy disciple away from the residence. 4 hours later, Han Li arrived at an imposing hall made of white stone. The hall was serene and had a white stone table and a row of 5 stone chairs to either side of it. Apart from Yin Yue, the red-bearded old man, and the beautiful woman, there was also a tall and thin man wearing black robes. A dark qi faintly emitted from the man's body, concealing his face entirely. He also had a pair of black wings that shined with black light. The stone table had a box as scarlet as fire. Several emerald green tree leaves were intertwined in a pattern on top of it. The green light they emitted made for a stark contrast with the color of the box. Han Li stood in front of the 4 with Bai Bi standing off to the side. The atmosphere in the hall was incredibly heavy, and none of them chose to speak. It was as if no one was there. As for the black-robed man, he examined Han Li with much interest. A moment later, footsteps sounded from outside the hall to reveal a silver-robed woman with white wings. She carried a wind into the hall. Her complexion was like white jade and her eyes were beautiful. There was not a flaw in her appearance. Lei Lan, you're late. Jin Yue looked at the woman and frowned. The beauty bowed to Jin Yue and spoke with a hoarse voice. Grand Elder, I've comprehended a few techniques recently and had a sudden understanding resulting in my tardiness. I hope the elders will forgive me. Since it was related to comprehension, then so be it. Jin Yue's expression relaxed. She uttered a word of thanks and stood to the side. Jin Yue then stared at the Han Li and the holy disciples and spoke with a pleasant voice. You should know why we've gathered you here. The oncoming trial is related to the life and death of the clan. So one of you 2 must pass the trail and succeed the position as our race's holy master. However, we've received information that there are branches hostile to us, like the Qirong. They are unwilling to allow us to escape calamity and have most likely placed people in the trials to act against you. The time you've spent as holy disciples is too short. If the other holy disciples violently block you, you won't return. For this reason, I've invited fellow Taoist Han to our Tian Peng race. He will temporarily act as the 3rd holy disciple. He will offer you his strength. Bai Bi and the newly entered woman raised their head and glanced at Han Li. The young man had a warm, kind gaze, while the woman's expression was as clear as ice. Han Li faintly smiled.